welcome to Telling the Tale, the podcast where I'm here and Dustin is too. We talk about Telltale and we talk about you, the listener. Dustin,
Sometimes.
What's your favorite thing about the listener?
I like the way their ears are like not regular ears. They're like irregular, but in a way that gives them character.
I like that too, and I like the same thing about their knees.
Yeah, those are pretty good. Knees were second on my list.
Oh, okay. Good. So, anyway, hi.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I played Sam and Max Season 3, Episode 3.
Which one is that?
That's the one they call, They Stole Max's Brain, which is based on the similarly titled novel by Jane Austen.
That's true. This game was released on June 22nd, 2010, and it was directed by a combination of Mike Stemmel and Joe Penny.
Joe Penny?
Joe Penny, yeah, Joe Penny's in this
What a
one.
name.
Yeah, Joe Penny, I was gonna say sounds sort of Home Alone-y, but I guess that's just because of Joe Pesci, so that's not really a joke. That's more of just a sound. Things that sound like other things are not jokes.
Joe
You want them
Pesci,
to be.
Joe Pera, and Joe Penny, all together.
Yeah, when you're trying to think of comedy, sometimes this other thing, which is words that sound like other words, sneaks in, and you're like, yeah, I'm convinced that's a joke.
Yeah,
and then
that's
you say
funny.
It and like you wasted your time. That's just not a joke. That's not anything.
It slips past your moist little lips, and you say, "Wait, no, that wasn't funny."
Yeah, I like to think about myself that I've got a good filter for that kind of thing, but growing older, I realize that I don't. I just don't.
That's fine. Maybe next podcast you'll get it right.
Oh man, imagine another podcast.
It'll be called Telling the Tale 2, where we go through every episode of Telltale Games again.
Why would you not be content with just this podcast?
Yeah, really. I feel like our listeners are getting a little greedy.
Yeah. Well, here's the dealio. We start out in... Oh, by the way, I liked the episode. Wow, what's the train of thought we're on today?
Yeah, this is a weird episode, but I like it. We got a different sort of energy.
Yeah.
It's almost like reality's been warped somehow.
Is that a reference to the episode?
Yes.
That's way too late in the show for that.
Well, so Mitch, I gotta be honest, I liked this episode, but I was also kind of disappointed by this episode.
I feel the same way. I think it is a step down from the previous two Devil's Playhouse episodes, but it's still, I think, better than like most season 1 or 2 episodes.
I agree. I still had a good time with it, but I think just having my expectations raised so much, and I felt like this when I first played it too. I remember thinking this episode was the low point of the season, but I guess if this is the low point of the season, then it's a pretty good spot to be in.
So the episode starts again. We're in the in the basement of the building. We're still. This is 3 episodes in a row. We're in the basement of this building. And we finally get to leave in the middle of this episode.
It's about time.
It's really just the tail end of episode 1, and then technically it's episode 2. Although like you're mostly in the movie.
Yeah.
In episode 2. And then only a little bit of this episode, but still it feels like we're in the basement forever.
That's so weird. That never occurred to me, but now that you bring it up, I'm like, holy crap, you are in that basement for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, like, in universe, it's only a couple hours.
Yeah. But it carries over throughout into episode 3. This basement.
Yeah, and it matters. It makes you think about that basement, too. I think that's the thing that makes it feel longer. It's like, hey, remember how we're in this basement? I'm like, yeah, ooh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, the basement's an important part. It makes sense that you're there for so long, but boy, yeah. I didn't realize it until you brought it up.
The basement is the mashed potatoes that we're pouring all the extra game gravy over.
Wow, what a sentence to say. Mitch, you're killing it today.
Sam found out that Max's brain is gone.
Oh no.
And he starts interrogating the nearby mole people who basically don't know anything, but they saw Who'd they see?
Was it
they
the
saw
sign
Skunk Ape.
spinner?
No, they saw Skunk Ape get the
Oh, right.
brain,
That's
right?
right. That's right. Yeah.
And you're thrown into this interrogation minigame. And it's pretty impressive as a minigame. Like, it's the same dialogue option choosing that you've been doing throughout, all of Sam and Max, but depending on when you say certain things and how you say them, the characters react differently. So, if you tell someone, "You're lying!" And at the right time and when they're talking, and about the right stuff that you actually have evidence to back up, they will admit to lying. And everyone's lying about something a little bit because it's a video game.
Yeah. It's so it's crazy because thinking about so there's lots of Telltale games I haven't played, so maybe this is a foolish thing to say, but I don't know if Telltale ever does anything like this again. Maybe
they don't even do it again in this episode.
Yeah, that's part of why I was kind of disappointed with this episode overall. I feel like it starts out very strong and very interesting. The bad cop Sam is such a stark contrast to his character, and you have these new things you do with the dialogue options. You're really thrown into something new and different, and it's cool. And then it just kind of turns into your typical Sam and Max episode afterwards.
Yeah, so I was saying in previous episodes that episode 1 is like a crime noir, and in retrospect, I don't think I was right, because this is a crime noir.
Yeah.
There's a bit of it in episode 1, but it's mostly like 70s exploitation pulp.
Yeah.
And I've been corrected in my ways. Now I no longer think that episode 1 is mostly crime noir. This is mostly crime noir, but really only for like a bit. And I think that is part of the reason that I think this episode stands a little weaker.
Yeah,
because they can't keep it up. This episode is like 3 major sections.
Mm-hmm.
There's this interrogation thing where you're just driving from place to place, interrogating people, asking them about the whereabouts of Max's brain, and you eventually find out that it's in the museum. And that is cool. I think if that was just the episode, it would be great.
I agree.
And then you sort of infiltrate the museum. It's still pretty crime noir-ish, but it's different. And you find that Skunkape and Paperweight, who's still alive somehow, have stolen Max's brain. They're using it to like refill the toy box and to eventually do stuff with it.
I did really like seeing both Skunk Ape and Paperweight come back. I forgot that Skunk Ape came back. Yeah. I totally forgot he was even a factor in the story going forward. And I think it's cool that you not only do you have one villain, but you have 2 villains that stick around. Usually in Sam and Max, these games, that doesn't really happen. You kind of build up to, like Hugh Bliss in the first season and the Soda Poppers in the second season. They build up to them being the villains, but they're not like continuous villains throughout the whole season. This is the first time you have 2 villains that are, they're who you're up against from the beginning, and they're just there the whole time. I like that a lot.
Skunk Ape is almost on a speed run to become Bowser in the Mario RPGs instead of Bowser in the mainline Mario games. Like he's quickly becoming not a threat after being a pretty sizable threat.
Yeah.
Which is fun. I mean, that's a Sam and Max thing to do all over the place. All of the villains up till episode 205 were just like NPCs in hell that we found afterward. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
In addition, we're meeting a third villain in this museum part of the game, who is Sam and Mac, the pharaoh that we were in the tomb of in the previous episode.
That's so... I guess it's not that weird, but it's a little interesting to me that the last episode is called The Tomb of Sam and Mac, but you don't meet Sam and Mac until this episode.
Well, no, he's dead.
Yeah.
So you find Sam and Mac's brain preserved in like a brain jar, one of them brain jars the Egyptians did. And you can put the brain in Max's brainless body in order to make Max amble about, and then you can just talk with your new sidekick, Pharaoh Salmon Mac.
Wow, you get a whole new sidekick in this game. For a little bit, anyway.
Yeah. I think there's some interesting things that they do with Salmon Mac, the Pharaoh, that I'm kind of split on.
Mm-hmm.
I think the voice acting is good. The voice acting is good.
Uh-huh.
I also think, because they make it very clear that Salmon Mac, the Pharaoh, is a man, or at least a child boy. And the voice actor is very clearly feminine. It's not even like, it doesn't even seem like Timmy Turner amounts
A woman
of,
voicing a little boy.
Yeah, it just seems like a little girl.
Salmon Mac is voiced by Nikki Rapp, who previously voiced Morgan Le Fay in Tales of Monkey Island.
Yeah, she's good. It's a really good voice, and I think they just should have said that Salmon Mac was a girl.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
That's easier than finding a better voice than her, because
she's a voice actor that doesn't turn up very often, that I've noticed. But every time she does, I'm like, oh, her, because she's also Lily in Psychonauts. So
oh yeah, okay,
yeah, so that's cool. I like when I hear voices I know.
You do like when you hear voices you know.
I'll cop to it.
By the way, I think I should just catch myself. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a person going by he, him pronouns and having a very feminine voice. That's a very normal thing. It would strike me as a lot more progressive than Salmon Max has previously been. And to do that. So it would seem sort of out of character for me if that's actually what they're going for. But I think viewing the character through that lens is very legitimate as well, so that's fine. It just doesn't, it didn't immediately click for me as something that, like, I didn't understand the reasoning behind what they're doing with the voice acting there, if that is what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let's not forget the other character we're introduced to in this museum.
Sal the cockroach.
Yeah, who's been alluded to in the past, but we finally see him.
We finally see Sal. Sal's great.
Oh, totally. I love him.
What's the guy's name that this voice actor is doing an impression of?
Patrick Warburton?
Yeah, it's totally Patrick Warburton.
Yeah, like, you can just tell from the get-go, it's Patrick Warburton, but we can't afford Patrick Warburton.
Hey, Salmon Max, it's me, Sal. Yeah, that's
pretty good.
For sure.
That actually,
Thanks.
I think that's a perfect way of doing Sal. Just try to do Patrick Warburton, and if you can't nail it perfectly, then you're Sal. You're doing a good Sal.
Yeah. I think also introducing yourself as "It's me, Sal" is a very Sal thing to do.
Hey, it's me, Sal.
He's just a nice guy that likes people.
Yeah, Sal's great. It's funny because later on in Telltale Poker Night 2, they do get Patrick Warburton, since they have Brock Sampson from Venture Brothers. And there's a conversation in there where Sam's like, you remind me of this guy you used to know, Sal. He was this giant cockroach. And Brock's like...
Really?
Yeah, and Brock's like, yeah, a lot of people say I sound familiar to him, so...
What's your favorite Warburton role?
Favorite? That's hard, because there's lots of good ones. Kronk on Emperor's New Groove is probably the one I bring up first. That's just such a good performance, and he steals the movie. Mm-hmm. Joe is like one of the only good characters left in Family Guy. Like
your Family Guy opinions always throw me for a loop.
Well, Family Guy's a show that really fluctuates. But I feel like even now, even when they have good episodes, it feels like a lot of the characters are not very good. Like, they've been kind of flanderized, but they flanderized Joe in a way that makes him a lot funnier. They just kind of made him this, I I don't want to say pathetic, but they made, like, he always cracks, like, bad jokes. He always says, like, dumb dad jokes. And
he's very
really,
dadly in recent episodes.
And it makes him very funny and one of the only, like, likable characters.
By the way, I need to explain why I've seen recent episodes of Family Guy. I feel like that's important.
You need to go on record.
Dustin has repeatedly said for like a long time that Family Guy...
Every day.
Which was the season you said was really good?
Season 18, so it was
18.
Not very good for a while, and then season 18 surprised me. It was like, oh, these episodes are actually pretty funny. They're, I mean, not like smart, but they're pretty consistently funny and entertaining. And then it's just back to not being very good afterwards.
I even found some stuff that was good in season 19. The thing is, you told me, and I think you said you compared it directly to the other ones. Like you said, it's better than Simpsons, it's better than South Park, it's better than American Dad, and I was like, no way.
Yet, just the other day,
there's no way that's true about Family Guy.
Yeah, and then what do you know?
And yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I sort of tapped into that world. I have become pretty done with it compared to some other funny shows that are coming out. Yeah. But I watched Family Guy again, like modern Family Guy. Dustin's sort of right. Like it's I think it's the best one right now.
Yeah, it's because it just feels like it's because all the other shows have kind of fallen so low. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like I can still get some good laughs from American Dad now. It doesn't hit as hard as it used to, but like Simpsons is really bad. South Park hasn't been great for a while. Family Guy is a show that you can just like turn off your brain and get some dumb laughs at.
Yeah, okay, I gotta collect myself. You're saying a lot of weird things, but I think I agree. I think I agree. Family Guy is good, maybe. Oops.
Well, good with an asterisk, I think. I don't think everything it does is good. And even now, I would say, like, the currently running episodes are not that good. It had a period of time where it felt like they were really... sorry, I burped. It really felt like they were starting to get their shit together. I'm sorry we're talking so much about Family Guy on the Sam and Max podcast, but...
No, let's just lean into it.
Okay, good. There was an episode recently where... well, not recently, but back in that 18th season, where they get called in by the studio executives, and they're like, look, Family Guy sucks, we want to reboot Family Guy. So they bring in a focus group, and they start pitching them Family Guy reboot ideas. And, like everyone in the focus group's like, that sucked. Nah, I don't really like it. I don't really understand the baby. And that was a fun episode. It was just stupid.
Did you see the episode where this is bad. This is a dark tunnel that we're steamrolling ahead into.
No, it's fine. We'll get back to the Sam and Max. It's not going anywhere.
Did you see the season 19 episode where Peter and Lois hung out with that younger parent couple?
Yes, I don't remember anything about it, but I did see it. And I think that sums up Family Guy in general. Like, it's not memorable, but you can have an all right time with it.
There's like a lot of good moments in that one episode, though. there's like that. This is not important. So in Sam and Max, by the way, I asked you the thing that started this was I asked you your favorite Patrick Warburton. I think mine is also Kronk.
Yeah, Kronk's just so funny. And like I said, he steals the movie, him and Yzma both. And like, I like all the characters in that movie, but I think if you ask someone why they like that movie, it's usually because of Kronk and Yzma.
That said, a strong second place, I think, is he was Lemony Snicket in the Netflix Lemony Snicket show.
Really?
Yeah, it was really good as Lemony Snicket. Wow. Yeah.
That's cool.
He like narrated all the episodes while also sort of playing a part in some of them.
That's an interesting choice to get like such a well-known voice to be your narrator.
It was a good fit for Lemony Snicket. He felt very depressed.
That's good. He felt
That's
very
great.
depressed. He felt very depressed. That's why they got Patrick Warburton.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want a big depressed guy, you gotta do Patrick Warburton.
But yeah, I love Sal, and I love that he sounds like Patrick Warburton.
Yeah, he's like almost Patrick Warburton. Patrick Warburton in the year 2010, was he a name? Was he like someone people really knew yet?
I would think so. I think that's when he was kind of big. They got him for Soarin' at Disneyland, Soarin' over California. He was in Emperor's New Groove, Family Guy. I'd say, and Venture Brothers. He was in a lot at the time.
Yeah, but like all of the other non-Seth MacFarlane voice actors in Family Guy.
Oh, but no, that's when they started getting him for like lots of roles in like big animated movies too, like Open Season. He's in that. He's in B Movie, isn't he?
Yeah, he is in
yeah,
B Movie.
he was. He
He's
was in a lot
husband
of
the woman who is sexually attracted to the bee.
He's the one who gets cucked by the bee.
Yeah, he's that. Yeah,
that's what it says on his IMDb. The man who gets cucked by the bee.
He's that weird bee incel. Man, some things suck actually, but this episode of Sam and Max was fine. Yeah. You go around and you try to split up Paperweight and Skunk Ape so they're mad at each other again. And once you do that, you can sneak in there and you can try to put Max's brain back in his body and swap out Sam and Mac. But Sam and Max sees the devil's toy box, the devil's toy box, and just is enticed by it, instantly drawn to it, and then uses its power to recreate the world in its image.
Yeah, and then it goes into a whole totally different direction.
Yeah, we see the streets that Sam and Max patrol normally have been Egyptized. They've been turned into Egypt, and that's exactly what you think it means. There's just pyramids and like sand now.
Yeah, that's basic. Like all the buildings are the same except Bosco's isn't there anymore. Instead it's a big Sam and Max statue. But other than that, it's pretty much the same, just with some pyramids in the back.
Why do you think? Because you mentioned Bosco here. 3 episodes in, we've really seen nothing from Bosco. What was that choice, do you think?
I think it's just because these last 2 seasons, every episode we saw Bosco and Sybil. So I wonder if they just wanted to give them a break for this season and focus on different characters. You know who else I noticed isn't in this season at all? Is Jimmy Two Teeth.
I was about to say, yeah. Because they have to run into a rat multiple times in this episode. And they choose Frankie the Rat.
Yeah, they could have just done Jimmy there, but they decided to go a totally different rat.
Yeah, I would say that I would guess that it's a voice acting thing, but at the same time, they've traded out voice actors for like Sam and Max mid-season. So that doesn't seem to be.
Did they for Sam?
Stop them. No, not for Sam, just for Max.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't stop them.
Plus, I feel like they usually get like actors who do multiple voices, so I wonder if Jimmy's voice is still in this season somewhere. I don't know who voices him.
Yeah, I don't either.
But yeah, I wonder if it's just because I wanted to focus on others. I'm kind of glad they do, because Sam and Max always has like tons of rats in like every version of Sam and Max. They got a lot of rats, so I kind of like that we get to see some other ones rather than just Jimmy and his family.
Yeah, now getting rid of Bosco in the year 2021 makes a lot of sense, because they don't like the current Skunk Ape company does not like what they previously had done with that character. In terms of having it be voiced by a white person and make a African American patois out of their voice and sort of just do stereotype jokes and that stuff.
Yeah, do you think now, if they were to do a 4th season, do you think they would just update Bosco a little? I mean, they already have a different voice for him, or do you think they would just write him off?
Because they're happy with how Bosco works in the remaster.
Yeah, they seem. I have a feeling that if they were to do more, we would just see Bosco through 2021 eyes.
Yeah.
And that's cool. I'm always more of a fan of reworking a character than just totally getting rid of them.
I don't think there's anything
most of the
wrong
time
with Remaster Bosco. I
Yeah.
think they would just keep that around.
Yeah, I
But
mean, they
wonder-
even cut a lot of the racier gags with him. So
Was 2010 later enough in their timeline that they were uncomfortable with what they were doing with Bosco already? Because to me, that seems like not soon enough for them to realize that. Just on the way that they sort of work.
yeah, I personally feel like it's just they wanted to kind of mix up the cast a little bit and give these characters that we've seen in every episode so far a break. But you never know. Maybe they were just kind of regretting the way Bosco worked, because we have Mamabosco in this episode, not in this episode, but in this season. And she hasn't been in the last episode. She wasn't in this episode, but I do remember her coming back. So I don't know. That's a thought to have.
Yeah, because I know the reason they got rid of Bluster Blaster was because Jared Emerson Johnson didn't want to yell anymore.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that earlier when I was on my little walk. I was kind of contemplating Sam and Max. That sucks because I love Bluster Blaster, but it's also, totally understandable. You don't want to make this guy blow out his vocal cords every time.
Yeah, I mean, he was an opera singer at the time.
Yeah.
So you can't really do that.
Personally, I would have just kept Bluster Blaster sedated. Give him the "I'm fine, Sam."
Thanks for breaking my cow lamp. I wonder
again
if
with the cow lamp.
I wonder if the reason Bosco isn't in this is for the same reason. Maybe that voice is hard on the guy, whoever that was. I don't know who that was.
I could see that.
So you got to do things for Sam and Mac because you want to get close to him with a brain screw that takes his brain out, but you can't do that unless you have 3 pendants of privilege. I think it's called.
Yeah, you got to get into the VIP lounge.
Yeah. So you need to give him a good gift. You need to point out a heretic. And then you also need to steal a third one that you can't possibly earn on your own.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's that part of the game. And then
this episode
has a boss battle.
This episode has some fun puzzles, but at the same time, they do kind of feel like that part where you have to bet on the finishing move Skunk Ape's going to use. I like that puzzle, but it also kind of feels like the first episode kind of touched on puzzles that were similar to that already, where you had to use the future vision to figure out what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, it's still done well here, but I just feel like nothing in this episode, other than the Noir Sam parts, really feel like they're bringing anything new on the same level that the last 2 did.
I think I like the puzzle in this one with the future vision with the Skunk Ape's finishing move.
I like it.
For listeners' clarity, it's a bunch of rats at a table. One of them has the pendant of privilege that you need. So you want to make a bet with them in order to win it. And the way you can do that is you can use your future vision on the radio, but it doesn't tell you what finishing move Skunk Ape uses, which is what they're betting on. So you have to use your future vision on the rats, and they won't say it outright either, but you can put it together because one of them says, that he either did or didn't use his hands. It either was or wasn't a move called gorilla or a move called ape. And then you get a little extra hint in some way, and then you can pick between the 6 finishing moves that there are in order to solve with those constraints which one is the move that he used. And I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, you kind of... What I like about it is that it's a puzzle that's not super hard, but you feel good when you figure it out. You're like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
I like puzzles like that I'm not pulling my hair out over.
So once you get all those pendants, you can get into Pharaoh Salmon Mac's inner circle. I'm saying Pharaoh Salmon Mac every time because it just sounds too much like Salmon Mac's, which is the point, obviously. But
isn't it pronounced a little? I thought it was pronounced like Salmon Mac.
I mean, it is in the same way that his name's not Paperweight and Skunk Ape's name isn't Skunk Ape.
That's true.
Like, you're still gonna say the other thing.
It's cool that Paperweight's still around. I like his vocal performance.
Yeah, I really like Paperweight.
He does a good job. He does a good job of making him sound both sophisticated and whiny.
Yeah. And all three of those, Skunk Ape, Paperweight, and Salmon Mac, are sort of like a cool little rogues gallery for Salmon Macs to have. An entirely newly built rogues gallery, throwing away a lot of the rogues gallery from seasons 1 and 2, of which there were a lot.
Yeah, I kind of like that. These guys feel like a bigger deal than, say, what's his face? Brady Culture.
Well, yeah, they are definitely a bigger deal than Brady Culture. I don't think they've made the imprint that like the soda poppers have quite yet, but they're on their way, and I like them more than the soda poppers, so that's fine.
Yeah, the soda poppers had the benefit, in quotes, of being in almost every episode, so you were kind of forced to have them. Maybe not grow on you, but you were forced to get used to them. They were forced to build a presence.
Yeah, it's weird to talk about the Devil's Playhouse as like, what is it to Salmon Max? Because it's tempting to just say it's season 3. But yeah, it's sort of its own thing. Whereas seasons 1 and 2 are like the 2 seasons of the first game, and then Devil's Playhouse really feels like a sequel game. It's a different game.
Yeah, they changed so much about how it plays and what the focus is. It's still structured pretty much the same way, but you go about its puzzles very differently, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, I was thinking about like how much each episode just takes off right after the last episode. I think they could have released this all at once as a premium game, like a one-time purchase game for consoles and PC all at once or whatever. It didn't need to be episodic. I know it's built around being episodic, but if I just played through, if I was taking one of my stinky days, one of my 8-hour video game playing days, and just feeling bad about myself, I would play through episode 2 right into episode 3.
I think so too.
Whereas
did I do that at the time?
It's
I don't remember if when I first played through this season, if I did that or not.
Did you play them as they came out?
No, I think this was. Did I play them right when they came out? I don't think I did. I think I waited for all of them to be out. But maybe, I don't know. Anyway, it's not important. But thing is, I agree with you. I would. It's the type of game, like, even last week, I wanted to play this episode really bad after we finished 2, which is weird because I didn't get around to actually playing it until today.
Yeah.
But they really know how to get you hooked with those episode stingers, especially in this episode, which comes a little later. But they get you interested in what's coming up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I played this one as it came out. The problem was, for this season, they had some deal with Apple, where the Penal Zone was one of the first apps you could get on an iPad.
That sounds so familiar. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, they designed the whole game sort of around iPad.
That's right, because that's why you control them. Because you would use your finger, drag your finger to control Sam on the gamepad rather than clicking.
Still don't think it makes sense because you can just tap and that's a click and that's fine, but whatever.
Yeah, I think you should be able to do both. But...
yeah. But each episode came out a couple days early on iPad.
Oh.
before everything else. And Sam and Max has a history of that. Like, it came out a little early on GameTap before it came out on the Telltale website for the earlier seasons. And I think Strong Bad came out a little early on Wii.
Yeah, I think Monkey Island did too. I think both Monkey Island and Sam and Max were, or not Sam and Max, Strong Bad. They really pushed the WiiWare versions of them.
Telltale was so weird in that way because what they were actually building up, which was very strong at the time, was this core buy directly from us on our website ecosystem. And then they kept being like, but we'll give you benefits if you buy it anywhere else. And they don't even stick with the same place. It's different places all the time. And later it'll be Steam. And then they'll sort of settle with Steam for a while as their like major place that they sell their games through. But for a while, it made way more sense to just go to their website and buy it on their website rather than Steam.
Yeah, that's what I did. I think a while back we were looking at our Telltale catalogs. I still have a lot of games in my Telltale library.
Yeah, that's why I have this game. That's how I'm playing this game right now. I'm playing it through Telltale's website.
That's
so
cool.
At the end of the episode, you get in a fight with Sam and Mac, and Sam, throughout this whole time, has not actually been aware that the world's been changed. No one is aware except for Max because he's got psychic powers. And Max tricks Sam into skewering Sam and Mac in the face with the brain screw. And that's a good trick.
Yeah, try that one on your friends.
Yeah, so he just rips his brain out. And then you can put Max's brain back in Max's body, and Sam and Max's brain is somewhere else. What happens to that brain? I don't remember.
I don't know. Do they just leave it? I guess they just leave it. They don't need it.
I think it's their style to just sort of talk, like chuck it.
Well, wait, no, because after reality turns back to normal, they're in the museum. Maybe the brain just went back in the display somehow once reality reset. Or something.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not important.
And at that moment, everything's fine. For the first bit since episode 1, really, it feels like 2 full episodes. We are now regularly just Sam and Max again. But it's very short-lived because immediately after, a stampede of naked Sam clones just starts charging into the museum, and it's very scary. I don't want to be attacked by a bunch of Sam clones.
What a good stinger for this episode. This is where I'm like, okay, well, now I really want to play this next episode to know what the hell is going on with these.
Yeah. Sam clones versus Max clones, which is scarier? On the face of it, probably Max, because he's much more violent. But also,
yeah, I think
Sam's large, and just that naked Sam chasing you, I don't know. I'd be scared.
Yeah, also, Sam is this huge, powerful dog man. I feel like he could trick you into hurting you easier.
Yeah, I bet he could. Although, as we'll find out later, the personalities of Sam and Max aren't necessarily contained in these clones. But that's for later.
Ooh.
Anything else we want to talk about before we head into our segments?
So the moles in this episode, that's meant to be like an older version of Nefertiti, right?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that's very cool. Like, it's pretty obvious it's supposed to be, but at the same time, Telltale, at the time, not so much in this season, but definitely in, like, Tales of Monkey Island, they had a real tendency to reuse models where they could for different characters. But the fact that she has the exact same voice, I think, is what sells it. But it's very cool that you see this character who made such a strong impression in the last episode come back and help you with your current problem in this episode.
She's got to be like 120 years old.
I guess moles just live a long time.
Maybe they're like elves in D&D, where they're like mostly human, but they also just live forever and are magic and better.
Or maybe they're like elves in Sam and Max, where they're disgusting and awful.
They're probably a combination of elves in D&D, elves in Sam and Max, and moles.
and moles from the animal moles.
Let's see. Oh, the fucking German guy.
Oh, the tourist, yeah.
What's his whole thing?
His whole thing is that he comes to America. He's on vacation in America, but I guess he shows up at like the exact wrong time you want to be on a vacation in America, when a brain of a pharaoh has been found and just rewrites all of existence.
Yeah, so this guy, you see him at the beginning part where you're interrogating him because he saw he saw Skunk Ape escape with Max's brain. That's a hard sentence. And you interrogate him for a while. And then in the Egyptian version of reality, he's thrown into the gladiator pit and I think destroyed.
Poor
by
guy,
Skunk Ape.
jeez.
Yeah, poor guy. Also, like, it's a very small role. I don't remember him turning up again. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't think he does. I completely forgot he even existed.
in episodic games like this, new character models come at such a premium where like you'll get a few per episode. Like this episode we got Sal.
Yeah.
And
usually if you make a new model, you really want to keep them. You want to be able to use them wherever you can.
Is it just Sal?
Sal
and this German guy.
Yeah. Was there anyone? I think that's it, because all the other characters are like Skunk Ape's minions, Stinky and Grandpa Stinky are there. Yeah, all the rest are characters that have been around.
If you just need someone pathetic to like throw around, it could be anyone.
It could have been Harry.
It could have been Harry Moleman. Yeah, why wouldn't it be Harry Moleman? He's been really important thus far. Maybe they felt like they're just getting Harry Moleman fatigue. But
yeah, maybe this episode's pretty Moleman heavy, so maybe they were just
every episode this season is Moleman heavy.
Yeah, which is fine. I like the concept of the mole people. And yeah, maybe they just said, "Look, we got too many moles. Don't use Harry. Let's make a tourist."
Yeah. So okay. Also, there's a lot of really good signs in the museum. You read those. There's one that says Pluto, real planet or big fat faker.
That's the one I had written down. Jeez, way to throw Pluto under the bus.
Yeah.
Big fat faker.
Yeah, Nefertiti's back. Okay, so there's one part near the end of the episode where Pharaoh Sam and Mac tries to get Sam to kill Nefertiti. And Sam like tries because he wants to he's brainwashed by the Pharaoh still. And he raises the brain screw to do it, and then like he goes limp, and he's like, I can't do it. This seems out of character to me.
You think Sam would kill Nefertiti?
It always off screen, but like, yeah. I think Sam would kill like a lot of people. Like he's more reserved than Max, but they've completely destroyed innocent lives before.
Yeah, but not so much as like removing someone's brain. Maybe he feels, even in this new reality, maybe deep down he feels the connection to this mole that his forefather Samoth knew. Maybe
Samoth hated Nefertiti though. Like no one likes Nefertiti.
That's true. Well, maybe she grew on him.
I doubt it, man. I have it written down here. Sam and Max could have killed Nefertiti in season 1, and they definitely could have killed Nefertiti in the comics. Without even a second thought, they would have killed Nefertiti in the comics.
Personally, I feel like it would have taken Sam down an unlikable route, even with just that one act. I like that he didn't kill Nefertiti. I feel like you kind of have to have that good cop. Like, maybe not so much in the comics, but I feel like given where the Telltale series is, Sam to me feels like, at least in the Telltale games, at this point, it does not strike me as something he would do.
Sam wouldn't do it during the story, but like peeing, I think he saves a lot of his violence for directly off screen, right? Because I could totally imagine them starting an episode with Sam saying, "Boy, Max, wasn't it crazy how we just killed that mole person?" And then Max is like, "I thought they'd put up more of a fight." Like, easy, right? That's something they do.
Yeah, but maybe he does just let Max handle the gruesome stuff. Like in Hit the Road, Max is the one who wants to beat the crap out of the scientist at the beginning. Sam gives him the go-ahead, but he doesn't do it. Maybe Sam isn't the type to actually kill someone. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe he just knew this isn't right. I shouldn't be... Because even if he does kill people, I feel like it would mostly be criminals.
Well, yeah.
Like, part of Sam Max's characters is, they'll ruin people's lives for the sake of puzzles, but I don't think they'd, like, kill someone who is innocent. Maybe he just knew deep down that Nefertiti was not someone who should be killed in this instance.
Yeah, but I guess, like, in the context of the Egyptian world, right, she is a criminal. She's a heretic against the guy that Sam really believes in. So, if you were to export that to the real world, that would be like if someone is trying to take down all of America or something.
Yeah.
And Sam would kill that guy. Sam would probably not really have a problem with it. I just felt like it was strange. I know why they did it, and I understand what you're saying with, like, it would be way too unlikable. But I think he's done it before. Like, I think he's done stuff like this before.
Yeah, I wonder if...
like, they boiled Hugh Bliss alive, right?
That's true, but maybe it's just because this reality is kind of fake. This isn't the real way things are. Maybe that was maybe deep down it was tugging at Sam, being like, look, don't kill this mole person. This is not the way things are meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that Sam's a good guy. I like that about Sam. I think that they've shown evidence to support that maybe other times he would have killed this person, and not even felt that bad about it. But that's the episode. Would you like to go into our segments now?
I would love to go into our segments. More than anything, honestly.
Dustin, what's your potent pickup?
Potent pickup for this episode? I think it has to be the rhinoplasty. There aren't a whole lot of pickups in this episode, but the rhinoplasty is just such a really fun idea. Just being able to turn Max into different things, seeing pictures of things and thinking, oh, I can turn Max into that for this puzzle. That's just a cool thing to be able to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. The rhinoplasty is the putty that you can put on something and it
I like
absorbs
the way you
its
said
form.
that. You said
Putty?
rhinoplasty is the putty.
It's the putty that you can put on an image, and then Max can transform into that image. You do it a lot in this episode.
Yeah, this is kind of the rhinoplasty episode, which is cool. I like that. It's very neat.
Yeah, it's very high on the plasty meter. Let's see what else you do. There's a lot of things you can rhinoplasty in this episode that don't matter too.
Like what? Remind me. I was kind of...
So there's a picture of a dinosaur skull in the museum.
Right. I guess I just never tried it.
And Max turns into it, and it doesn't really do anything, but he's just like a dinosaur skull from then on.
But that's still really cool that you're able to do it.
Yeah.
That's great. You can just have a dinosaur skull with you.
Dustin, give me 3 linguistic gymnastics.
3 linguistic gymnastics. Okay, let me look. I had a few. I'm gonna narrow it down to 3. Oh, okay, here's a good one that made me laugh. So when you first put Pharaoh summon Max's brain into Max's body, he sees Sam and he says, Anubis! And Sam says, nah, but I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Let me look through. I had some when. So when you're trying to intimidate Skunk Ape's minion, the one spinning the signs, you point a gun at his face and he says, "You are aware." I love this ape, by the way. His voice is so funny. He says, "You are aware that my ultra-dense space gorilla hide renders me impervious to your puny Earth bullets, right?" And Sam just says, "Oh, yeah, I forgot."
Yeah. That voice is almost the sheriff from Puzzle Agent.
I think it's the same guy. I think it's Roger Jackson. That's the Mojo Jojo guy. I know he's this guy. I think he's the sheriff in Puzzle Agent. They bring him back in like every Telltale game in this era. He's in Monkey Island. I think he might even be in Walking Dead, but I could be wrong. Let's see. Let me see. One more. Let me go to the bottom of my list. Maybe I have something from one line I really liked. It's when you're looking at the map of the city in Paperweight's office, and the Pharaoh is like wowed by this map. And he's like, "Oh wow, this is crazy." And Sam says, "Oh yeah, you didn't have perspective and vanishing points in your time, did you?"
Yeah.
Good stuff. I feel like this episode was another reason I was a little disappointed was it was a little light on jokes, but I feel like there's still some really good ones in there. It's not like
there's definitely some good stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't say this comes even close to being like a Moai Better Blues. It's probably the Moai Better Blues of this season, but in terms of overall Sam and Max, it's still very good. But you go ahead with your funny lines.
So I like when you're interrogating the German guy, I don't think you ever get his name, right?
I don't think so. He's just referred to as the tourist.
The tourist. So you're like trying to rough him up and threaten him, and he goes, "Please stop! I'm already ibble skibbled enough." And then Sam says, "Oh, sorry." And then the tourist goes, "De nada." Just throws in some Spanish.
I really love hard cop Sam. Anytime he backs down and goes back to regular Sam level, that's always very funny. He's just like, "Oh, sorry."
Oh, yeah. My bad. Another is like right at the very beginning, the narrator keeps up the tradition of saying just some absolute bullshit, some nonsense at the very beginning of the thing that like sort of tonally introduces the episode, but really is mostly just venting. He talks about our brains, and he says, "Are our brains truly in control? Makes you think, doesn't it?" As if that's like a like an evidence.
That's a clever thing he said.
Yeah. I have this pet peeve of like most psychology based games and movies and stuff. I just can't really deal with them because I went to school for cognitive science, and I'm not like a scientist at all in my day-to-day, but I am like a little bit, I just like know what brains are. So it like any question of, are we us with a brain, or are we the brains ourselves? I'm like, dude, get out of here. You can just take a class. You're not cool. You can just find out. Like it's not mysteriously unavailable information.
Wow, I didn't know you felt so strongly.
Or anytime any movie says anything about only using 10% of your brain, I'm gonna walk out. I'm just gonna walk out of the movie. Because like, get rid of 90% of your brain. Try it. See what happens.
See what happens. Let's see if you're such a smart man now.
Yeah, I bet you won't be. It's a pet peeve. I should just let it be fun, but when sometimes movies are like, what if this is how brains work? And I'm like, there is a lot of lack of knowledge on how brains work in certain ways. But the thing you picked is like, we know already. We just know how this part works. It's just, like go to school, read a book. I don't.
They just wanted to sound deep with it.
Yeah, they're like, man, if you could use your brain to your utmost, you'd probably be able to do telekinesis. Like, fucking why? What is that? What is that at all?
You'd be
it's not
Matilda.
fun for me.
You'd be Matilda from the book and movie Matilda.
She's so smart. Objects want to just go around for her. It's very, very frustrating, and I'm not a fun person to be around when discussing that kind of stuff of like, what if time is just like the brain's way of understanding stories? I'm like, Anyway, Dustin, what was your golden moment?
My golden moment was Noir Sam. I feel like that was the highlight of the episode, and it's just done so fast. But that's the one part of this episode that I really remember. Because the rest is good, but like I said before, you're just kind of doing your typical Sam and Max thing, and it's done in a great way. But I think when you start out with Sam being bad cop and you have these dialogue options, you're shaking things up a little. Then you just go back to the regular. It's a little deflating.
Yeah, I agree with that. That is also my golden moment. Justin, you know what's another one? When they when they say like, dude, what if the way that I see blue is different than the way you see blue? And it's just like, do you mean like color blindness, which is a thing? Or are you just talking about how the brain receives the chemical information, which it is mappable, like it's mappable to your occipital cortex? You can totally just... What's your weekly guy?
I know what blue is. It has to be Sal. Sal just is the guy this week.
Mine's also definitely Sal. Sam
He's
and
great.
Mac is pretty good. I think in another episode, Sam and Mac would have been it, but Sal's too good.
You know what? I'm also going to say as an honorable mention, the sign spinning gorilla.
Oh yeah.
I thought he was great. His voice performance is great, and he has some great lines. I know you told me to only do 3 lines, but one more I like is when Sam says, he's brought this gorilla to tears. He's saying like, Skunk Ape's not going to bring you back. So he's just like, oh, you're right. So he sits down and starts crying, and Sam says, and I hate to say it, you're not a very good sign spinner either. He didn't have to say that.
Yeah. He hates to say it, but let me just volunteer this.
He didn't have to. It had nothing to do with what they were talking about or anything. It had no context, but he just had to say, you know what? You're not very good at this.
Do you have an unweekly guy? Mine is Frankie the Rat.
Interesting. I like Frankie the Rat, but
I think I can't. It was hard for me to get over, like, just why isn't this Jimmy Two Teeth? Why did Jimmy Two Teeth have like an arc that felt finished at the end of season 2 or something? Because I don't remember that.
He had his son who died and then came back to life.
Yeah, but like, he's Jimmy Two Teeth.
Yeah,
he's gonna bounce back to his crime ways.
Well, did he get back together with his wife? I don't think so. It's so far in the past now. I personally I like that they focused on a different rat, just because Sam Max is always full of rats. It makes sense that you would talk to different rats rather than just the same rat every single time. Plus, Frankie, well, I was going to say Jimmy Two Teeth lived in Sam and Max's office. You're driving around town trying to find...
Yeah, he was everywhere, though. He
you could have just had Jimmy be there. But, I don't know. I like that we get to follow a different rat this one time. We've seen Jimmy Two Teeth. He's been around.
I forgot to ask you this in previous episodes, and I've always wanted to
Oh.
ask you this. You're playing on the PS3, right?
No, I was going to.
Oh, sorry.
So I started playing on the PS3, but it doesn't run very well. The frame rate's not great, and it doesn't like look so good. So I just switched back over to Steam.
But you did play Strong Bad on
No.
the PS3?
No,
What did
I
you
haven't
play
played
on
any.
PS3?
I didn't play anything on the PS. I was gonna
Are you
play this
kidding?
one, then I didn't. No.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask about achievements, but or trophies in this case, but
I'll need
I
to look
guess let's
into
just
it.
not do that.
Well, now I'm curious. I'll have to look into if they have trophies on PS3 or not. Huh. This episode is really what made me think I can't wait to see how this remake looks.
Yeah.
Because like everything looks better in this season, but you still kind of have some weird old crummy models like the rats. Like their eyes are like weirdly shaped and they're very low detail, but they have texture now. So they do look better, but I feel like the combination of using textures a lot more like this season does and the recrafted models of Sam Max Season 1 remade, you could get something that looks really good.
This made me nostalgic for when 4 years of game development was actually a long time in terms of technological advancements.
Yeah, wow.
Because the gap between seasons 1 and 2 of Sam and Max and this is, I think it's 4 years. Season 1 started in 2006, and this is 2010. And the gap between this and like games that are coming out now feels the same as that gap, even though it's 11 years. I mean, that's just how things go when you keep advancing. You hit a point of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It made me. I think it's ultimately a good thing that we're not like throwing out old computers all the time anymore, and mostly we can keep things longer. But it's it was exciting for a while of like, what's the next console going to be? And now when the next console comes out, I'm like, I'm excited for the games, but I'm not as like the console itself is just an encumbrance in getting the new games I want.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about something similar the other day. I've been kind of going through Double Fine's back catalog after Psychonauts 2, and I was playing Costume Quest, and then I downloaded Costume Quest 2. There's like no difference between the two and how they look. Like, I'm sure there's small differences. I'm sure 2... I haven't played 2 yet, but I was just going off screenshots and trailers and stuff. Costume Quest 1 came out on the 360, and Costume Quest 2, I mean, it also came out on the 360, so that probably explains it, but it came out on the Xbox One. And they look very similar, but
What's
also
the
when
year
I was...
difference between them?
So Costume Quest 1, I believe, was 2010, and Costume Quest 2 was 2014. So, but also when I was playing Costume Quest 1, it didn't feel that old to me. And, you know, a lot of that comes down to art direction, just art direction that really holds up on newer systems. But I was like, this doesn't feel like an old game to me. And even games like Brutal Legend, which came out in 2009, I think, that you can play that on Xbox One now, and it just looks, at least to me, it kind of looks like an Xbox One game. It doesn't look that different.
Yeah, with that, plus a lot of more minimalist and retro-facing aesthetics in indie games that we're seeing nowadays, you just can't place when a game comes out anymore by looking at it, where you used to really be able to.
Yeah.
Like, N64 games had a look that you were pretty sure, even compared to released in the same launch window, on the PlayStation 1, you were able to tell, like, oh, this is an N64 game. You can tell.
PS1 games and N64 games had different looks to them, even if they're pretty close.
And they looked different from the things that came before and after on the same track as them, too. So, like late N64 games look very different from early N64 games. And you can, if you have an eye for it, you can totally tell when all of those games came out, like, to the in some specific cases, even to the month, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, if you show me any game that came out from 2014-ish to now, I really won't be able to tell you when that's from.
Right.
Unless I can tell it uses, like, some sort of next-gen solid-state tech in its gameplay, like Ratchet and Clank, the new Ratchet and Clank does.
Yeah.
Then maybe I'll be able to tell, like, oh, that looks pretty new. But other than that, I don't really think there's anything that I've seen that wouldn't have been or couldn't have been playable in 2014.
Yeah. And like thinking about that with Sam and Max, I feel like if you compare season 3 to seasons 1 and 2, obviously you can tell this is newer. This looks better than the last 2 seasons. But I feel like nowadays, if you were to do like multiple Sam and Max seasons, I don't think there would be that big a difference between like the first season and like a season 3 or 4 seasons away from then. Yeah. I mean, I could be wrong, obviously, but it feels like if they were to stick to that style, it would just be the same every time.
I think that's what's, for some people, very attractive about virtual reality, because it does signal the next like major jump where you can tell, like, oh, this is actually a big jump.
Yeah.
And you can sort of proceed on the route that we've taken with graphics outside of virtual reality, again, because virtual reality games sort of look like they're from 2006, even though they are very high-tech pieces of software. And like graphics in them are just going to keep getting better and better and better. Which is interesting, because there's a virtual reality Sam & Max game that we should probably play, but yeah.
When we can.
Anyway, Dustin, a lot of tangents in this episode.
Yeah, it's fine because I feel like there's honestly not a whole lot to talk about in this episode because we're used to what this episode gives us. Like, episode 2 of this season was totally, you're going through like all the different reels. The gameplay was pretty similar, but it was framed in a way that was totally different. And the first episode is kind of your typical Sam & Max, but I think they have so many other things. Like, you have the toys now. You have, they're doing different things with the visuals and angles of the shots and stuff. So it felt different even if you were doing the same sort of stuff. I don't really think there's a whole lot in this particular episode where I was like, whoa, nothing really wowed me beyond the Sam and the dialogue choice stuff.
Yeah, and they just get rid of that so early. It doesn't even come back later in the episode.
Yeah. I feel like it would have been cool. I don't know how they would have done it, but it would have been cool if they like tied that into like the Skunk Ape battle at the end somehow.
It seemed like they tried to, but it's just not the same.
Yeah. Because at that point, you just have to find the right thing to say. It's not a point of knowing what to say and when to say it.
Yeah.
But it's fine. It's still a good episode overall, like I said, even when I was a kid playing this for the first time, well, not a kid, I was an adult by that point, but when I was playing this for the first time, even then I felt like this episode was the low point, but that's good. That's good that this is the episode that's the low point because it's still very good.
Yeah, I mean, if you only have 5 I think I've said this before, if you only have 5 episodes, the worst one should be episode 3.
I think you have said that, and I think a lot of the time that is how it plays out for me. Obviously not in season 2, but like in season 1, the 3rd episode was my least favorite. It feels like that's how it is with a lot of I remember like review sites like IGN and stuff. It always did kind of feel like episode 3 was the one that would get like a lower score than other episodes.
I think reviewing episodes of this game individually is a fool's errand. I guess we're kind of doing that, but no, we're well, first of all, we're definitely doing a fool's errand, so that would not be surprising. But also, we're not doing reviews, we're doing overviews. Overviews, Dustin.
Yeah, we're not giving them scores. I would not score They Stole Max's Brain.
Yeah, we're not we're over. Dustin,
that's
where
what
can
I always
find
say.
You?
People can find me at Amazing DJ Dustin on Twitter and Instagram. But you can find my art Twitter at Dustin Doodles. I feel like that's pretty easy to remember. Mitch, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at The Wolf FM. That's at symbol THEWOLFEFM. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you liked it, please leave a review on whatever podcatcher you're listening to this on. If you've left a review and would like me to read it on the show, point me in the direction of it, because there's a lot of podcatchers and I can't find all of the reviews all the time.
I can't find all these reviews we're getting. These mountains of reviews.
These mountains. Dustin's making fun of me hardcore, actually. But the point stands. I'll read your review on the show if you want. And subscribe if you can. That really helps. If you do subscribe, you'll be able to get a notification when we play the next episode in the season, which is called what, Dustin?
It's called Beyond the Alley of the Dolls.
Beyond the Alley of the Dolls. Hey, episode 4 always has a wild name.
Yeah, Chariots of the Dogs, Beyond the Alley of the Dolls. What was the one in season 1?
I mean, that was the president one, so I think it was...
Right. Abe Lincoln Must Die.
Abe Lincoln Must Die.
That is an episode title that gets you like, oh, I guess I want to know what's going on in that one.
Dangeresque 3, The Criminal Projective. Yeah, I mean, mostly I'm just thinking of Chariots of the Dogs and Beyond the Alley of the Dolls.
Tales of Monkey Island has a good one, too. The Trial and Execution of Guybrush Threepwood.
Ooh.
That gets you like...
provocative trial.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh,
jeez.
So if you want a notification when we do that garbage, you can just do that. You can do a subscribe. And if you do that, we'll see you next week.
So long next week, everybody.